You know that feeling when everyone around you is complaining about the cold, counting the days until spring, talking about how winter ruins their mood, and somehow you're doing fine? Not just fine. Actually, you're calmer, quieter, a little more yourself. While other people are booking flights to tropical beaches and chasing sunlight, you're genuinely looking forward to another evening at home, wrapped in layers, lights low, nothing demanding your attention. If that sounds familiar, this isn't about liking winter weather. It's about how your mind responds when the world finally slows down. Some people don't survive winter. They settle into it, and that difference matters. Because what you're feeling isn't laziness, sadness, or withdrawal. It's alignment. When the noise outside fades, your nervous system stops bracing itself. And for the first time in a long while, being alone doesn't feel empty. It feels right. So before we talk about comfort, routines, or personality types, there's a deeper question worth asking. Why does winter feel like relief to some people, while it overwhelms everyone else? When the temperature drops and the world outside starts to feel sharp and unforgiving, something subtle shifts in your brain. You step inside, the heat wraps around you, the door closes, and without realizing it, your body exhales. This isn't just comfort, it's contrast. Psychologists call it contrast-based comfort, but you don't need the label to feel it working. Your nervous system is constantly measuring safety, and winter exaggerates the difference between threat and refuge. Cold, darkness, and distance live on one side of the glass. Warmth, control, and familiarity live on the other. Every time you look out the window at the frozen street and then sink deeper into your couch, your brain registers a quiet victory. You made it somewhere safe. Summer doesn't offer that same emotional math. Staying inside on a perfect, sunny day feels like loss, like you're opting out of something you're supposed to want. But winter flips the equation. Inside becomes the smart choice, the efficient choice, the option that actually makes sense. This isn't avoidance, it's resolution. And once your brain recognizes that, the guilt disappears. What's left is a calm, grounded satisfaction that doesn't need to be explained to anyone else. Here's where the experience deepens. In winter, staying home doesn't just feel acceptable, it feels correct. The calculation your brain is running changes with the season. In summer, being indoors carries a hidden cost. There's light outside, movement, social energy, the sense that life is happening somewhere else. Even if you don't want to participate, your mind still registers staying in as skipping something valuable. But winter removes that pressure. When the air is cold and the streets are empty, going out suddenly feels inefficient, unnecessary. Your brain stops framing home as a compromise and starts seeing it as the optimal decision. This is why winter lovers don't experience the same low-level restlessness others do. You're not fighting an internal argument about where you should be. The answer is already clear. Inside isn't the backup plan, it's the upgrade. Comfort becomes competence. And once that shift happens, your energy stops leaking away through guilt and second-guessing. Instead of feeling like you're missing out, you feel like you're conserving something important. That sense of conservation sets the stage for what comes next. Because for certain minds, winter isn't just quieter, it's finally compatible. For introverted nervous systems, winter doesn't feel restrictive, it feels relieving. There's a common misunderstanding that introverts simply prefer being alone, but that misses the deeper point. Introverts process the world at a higher volume. Light feels brighter, heat feels heavier, noise lingers longer. Crowds demand more energy than they appear to. Summer amplifies all of that at once. Long days, intense sunlight, constant activity, unspoken expectations to be visible and available. It's not that introverts can't handle it. It's that their systems are working overtime just to stay regulated. Winter quietly removes that burden. Shorter days soften the light. Cold keeps spaces emptier. Social calendars thin out without explanation. The environment finally meets you halfway. You're no longer spending energy filtering the world before you can think. And when that pressure lifts, something important happens. Your baseline returns. Your thoughts slow down. Your awareness sharpens. You're not low energy. You're high processing. Winter doesn't change who you are. It simply stops demanding that you override it. And once your system settles, another shift becomes noticeable, one that surprises a lot of people who love this season. Once the noise drops, your mind starts doing what it's always been trying to do. Focus comes back online, not in a dramatic, motivational way, but in a steady, almost unnoticed shift. Cooler environments actually support cognitive performance, with the brain working most efficiently around the mid to high 60 seconds Fahrenheit. When your body isn't spending energy trying to cool itself down, more resources are available for thinking, reading, problem solving, and reflection. That's why winter is when unfinished books get read and long-delayed projects suddenly feel possible. You didn't become more disciplined. The conditions finally stopped fighting you. Creativity follows the same pattern. Without constant stimulation pulling your attention outward, your thoughts turn inward, connecting ideas more freely. There's less urgency, less distraction, fewer demands to perform. Your mind isn't sharper because you're pushing it harder. It's sharper because it's finally allowed to rest while it works. And this quieter mental state prepares you for one of the most misunderstood aspects of winter, the part people warn you about the most, but rarely understand. Darkness gets a bad reputation, mostly because we're taught to associate light with happiness and productivity. And it's true. For a small percentage of people, seasonal affective disorder is a real and serious challenge. But for many winter people, something else is happening beneath the surface. When the sun sets early, your day gains a natural edge. There's a clear signal that it's time to slow down, to stop pushing, to let the momentum fade without guilt. Your circadian rhythm finally has boundaries to work with. In summer, light stretches late into the evening, quietly pressuring you to stay alert, stay productive, stay on longer than your body wants to. Winter removes that pressure. Time feels more contained, more manageable, less endless. Psychologists refer to this as temporal compression, but the experience itself is simple. Days feel whole instead of sprawling. Darkness doesn't drain your energy. It holds it, and within that containment, something shifts emotionally. The world feels less exposed, more intentional, which is why winter nights don't just feel quieter, they feel meaningful. There's a visual and emotional quality to winter that's hard to explain unless you feel it. Streets lit by warm windows against dark sidewalks, quiet neighborhoods under a muted sky, the sense that the world has stepped back just enough to let you breathe. Winter doesn't try to impress you, it invites you inward. There's a melancholy to it, but not the kind that weighs you down. It's reflective, thoughtful. It creates space for feeling without demanding expression. Summer is loud, bright, expansive. Winter is restrained, layered, atmospheric. And for people drawn to this season, that mood feels grounding rather than sad. Darkness here isn't an absence of life. It's a different texture of it. It allows you to exist without performing, to observe without rushing to react. This aesthetic quiet isn't just something you see, it's something you inhabit. And once you're settled into that slower rhythm, you start to recognize the deeper reason winter feels so necessary, especially in a world that rarely allows true rest. Winter does something rare in modern life. It gives you permission, not the kind you ask for, but the kind that quietly exists whether anyone approves or not. For most of human history, winter was a season of conservation. You stayed closer to home. You moved less. You used energy carefully. Rest wasn't framed as laziness. It was survival. But somewhere along the way, we decided that productivity should look the same in every month, under every condition. The result is a constant low-grade tension, a sense that slowing down is somehow a failure. Winter people resist that narrative instinctively. They recognize that rest is not the opposite of living. It's part of it. When the world outside contracts, your inner world expands. Reflection becomes natural. Thinking deepens without effort. You're not trying to optimize every moment. You're letting moments be what they are. This isn't disengagement. It's recalibration. And for people who need solitude to recharge, winter doesn't feel like an excuse. It feels like alignment with something older and more honest than modern schedules. If you find yourself drawn to winter, it says something quietly specific about how you move through the world. You value depth over constant stimulation. You're comfortable letting things unfold slowly instead of forcing momentum. Silence doesn't scare you, and darkness doesn't feel like a threat that needs fixing. You don't rely on external validation to feel real. Where others look for energy outside themselves, you tend to find it internally, through reflection, observation, and presence. This doesn't make you detached or cold. It makes you attuned. You notice subtleties other people rush past. You understand that comfort can be meaningful, that coziness is not indulgence but regulation. Loving winter isn't about escaping life. It's about engaging with it on quieter terms. And in a culture that rewards louder, faster, brighter at every turn, that choice takes an unusual kind of confidence. You're not waiting for permission to live differently. You're already doing it in a way that feels sustainable, honest, and deeply human. Winter people aren't waiting for life to restart in spring. They're not counting down the days until the noise returns or the calendar feels acceptable again. They're already living, just in a way that doesn't demand constant motion or visibility. Life doesn't pause in winter. It concentrates. It becomes quieter, denser, more intentional. While the world rushes toward brightness and expansion, winter people understand something subtler. Growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like stillness, reflection, and presence. Spring doesn't wake you up. It just gets louder. And for those who thrive in winter, that isn't something to escape. It's something to balance. So if this season feels like relief instead of burden, trust that instinct. It's not despite the cold or the darkness. It's because of it. And if any of this resonated, there's more to explore in this way of thinking, not to fix you, but to help you live in rhythm with how your mind already works.